Thank you, Derrick. It's wonderful to be back in Philadelphia. I haven't been here in about 8 years, and I came here for a genetics conference, of all things. I started off as a computer scientist and rapidly switched into biology. And I'm just going to explain a little bit about the role of biology and what it could do for space settlement. Before I do that, I want to do a small pop quiz for everybody who's here. Just like you might be at the county fair and you might guess the weight of a bag of candy, I want you to guess the cost of each of these water products that we have here on stage. So I want you to guess the cost per liter of a bottle of Fiji, a high-end water, a bottle of Aquafina, which we have wonderfully down on the stage here for product placement. Thank you, Derrick. And tap water. So let's start in the middle. What about Aquafina? How many dollars per liter do we think it is? Yes. $2 per liter we have. Anybody else? Higher or lower? Yes. How much? Sorry. $5 a liter. Anybody else? 1.5. Okay. Okay. We'll come back to that in a second. What about the Fiji? How much do we think it is per liter? Yes. $5. Okay. Any other takers on that? $3, $8. Okay. What about the tap water? 50 cents. Okay. Yep. Less than a. That's a good guess. So the answer, $2.21 a liter for Fiji, 84 cents a liter for Aquafina, and 0.0008 cents per liter for tap water. Now, what if we were on the space station? Who wants to guess how much per liter? Yes. $10 per liter? What do you think? What do you think? How much? 50. Any other takers? Yes. More like 100. $5,000 per liter. Why does it cost $5,000 per liter? Yes. You've got to get it there. How do we get it there at the moment? Now, you can take your pick. If you want to be cheap, you could go with SpaceX at the Falcon 9. Or if you want to go with a Russian rocket like the Soyuz, it'll be about $16,000 a kilogram. But that's the problem. That's the problem with space, and that's the gravity well that Gregg talked about. Is getting things off of this gravity well is extremely expensive. And not just water, but then thinking about all the food that you have to consume. How much would a quarter pounder cost on the space station? Yes. Not bad. $2,500. Based on those SpaceX numbers. So, and I'm going to come back to food and why it's important. But I want to do a quick segue to go back to John von Neumann, who in the 50s was here in Princeton. At the same time, in the 50s in Cambridge, in the United Kingdom, where I'm from, Rosalind Frank, James Watson, and Francis Crick were discovering the structure of DNA about the same time. And John von Neumann, he proposed that we'd be using self-replicating machines to settle the solar system. And what he didn't know at the time is that we already had these amazing reprogrammable self-replicating machines. They're called cells. They can replicate, if it's a bacterial cell, every 20 minutes. That means in 24 hours you could go from one single cell to over 1 billion cells. So amazing power for replication. And little did we know, but over the last 50 years of genomics, all of this operating system is made of DNA, and it's all held tightly packed into chromosomes inside every one of your cells, every one of my cells. And what biology is this amazing reprogrammable manufacturing technology. On the left there you see the DNA, and on the right you can see proteins, enzymes, things like insulin, a messaging molecule in my body, or keratin, a structural protein used in my hair. These amazing reprogrammable systems that we have all through biology. And this is what's going on at the molecular level inside every one of your cells. This is a piece of DNA, and that's a polymerase which is reading the DNA like a ticker tape, and the yellow coming out of the DNA is a piece of RNA. And all of those little yellow dots are base pairs, A's, C's, U's and G's, because it's RNA, and they are self-replicating. It's reading the DNA and it's spitting out a piece of RNA. And later on that would go on to produce a piece of protein. So you can see from these basic building blocks, biology is able to replicate. This is why you need to have a balanced diet so that you can eat protein in your diet and have amino acids, or eat nucleotides in your diet and have A's, C's, T's and G's, so that you can keep your body doing what it does best, which is reading DNA, making RNA and making proteins. So this amazing power of self-replication. And as I said, it started in the 1950s with the discovery of DNA, and then in the 1970s we were able to start writing DNA, that's synthesizing A's, C's, T's and G's to read, to make whatever you want it to make, and reading DNA shortly after that. And you can read your entire DNA just for a few $100s at the moment. And you can write any strand of DNA you want and have it pretty much delivered the next day by FedEx. That's how fast it is to write DNA right now. So, what this means for the future is a rapidly falling cost of reading DNA, a rapidly falling cost of writing DNA, and a growing industry and field which we call synthetic biology. And synthetic biology, Craig Venter, one of the pioneers in the field, he said that over the next 20 years, synthetic genomics is going to become the standard for making anything. We're going to switch from petroleum-based feedstocks to biological-based feedstocks. And that's really important for sustainability on Earth, but also for sustainability in space. And synthetic biology is trying to make biology easier to engineer. It's trying to make an engineering discipline out of what's been a scientific discipline for the last 50 years. We already know that biology can produce these amazing structures here on Earth. Imagine a giant redwood tree that you could send to Mars and have it grow into an underground root chamber that you could live and breed. Imagine a shell made of calcium that you could grow around you to protect you from the UV radiation that you find on Mars. Imagine recreating your favorite fermented food products from Earth, but doing this on Mars, like this piece of brie. Or here in Hawaii, these cyanobacteria called Spirulina, which you may have purchased in a health food store, which can be grown into these complete protein sources. So where are we going to take this technology? Well, what's the one thing that we need if biology is going to survive in space? Water. So, do we have any water on Mars? Yes, we do. You can actually see the ice caps in this picture behind. What about an asteroid? Do we have any water on an asteroid? Yes, we do. And when you see a comet fly past the sun and it starts to burn up, you can see that beautiful trail. That's what we see, the water melting. Do we have any water on the moon? I'm preaching to the converted. You know all the answers. I thought I'd get you with the moon. We do. Over 600 million tons of water ice at the lunar South Pole, which was really only discovered about 5 years ago, how much water there is on the moon. If you look inside of that water, it's not just water. It contains carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and sulfur. It doesn't contain phosphorus. But all of those things that you see up the top right are everything that biology needs to replicate. So we're almost there in terms of a complete self-replicating set of elements. And you can see when you look at this spectra analysis from NASA Ames, where I used to work, the elements that are inside this water ice include a lot of carbon-containing molecules that biology needs to replicate. So here's what the scenario might look like, and you could do this on the moon, you could do this on Mars, you could do this on an asteroid, is starting off with an infrastructure to melt that ice and to take out those volatile compounds, the water and the carbon. Put those volatile compounds into your bioreactor, which could be producing food, it could be producing a material, it could be producing a flavor, it could be producing a pharmaceutical. And attached to that, you have a DNA synthesis capability to rewrite the DNA of the organism. You have a storage capability where you can store whichever product you're producing. And you have a mining infrastructure used for producing any other materials that you might need, like phosphorus. Then the beauty of biology, and what von Neumann didn't see at the time, was the ability to reprogram it. And so you can imagine there might be a satellite around the Earth beaming back to your space colony on the Moon or Mars, not just zeros and ones, but in the future they'll be beaming A's, C's, T's, and G's to rewrite the genome of the organism and for you to produce whatever it is you want to produce to support your stable colony. And with that, I'll hand back over to Derrick. Thank you.